Hello there. My name is Untitled Alabi, founder of Emotion City, Lagos and Texas. It is my pleasure to be here at your Developers Festival. So I am excited to be on this platform and to be talking to the awesome developers this beautiful day. Thank you for streaming in. I'm sure a lot of you are watching from all across and all over the world. My name once again is Untitled Alabi, the Emotions Doctor. I must also appreciate the fact that what you do is one of the reasons why the world is still what it is, and the world is still going around and moving and preserving us actually. So thank you so much for all of the things you're doing, back end, front end. This is a particular industry that I really do not understand. What I mean is everything that you do. Thank you for all that you have been doing. Thank you for your contributions in this particular year, like 2020. Thank you so much. So what exactly would we be talking about today and discussing? We'll be talking about an interesting topic that is called emotional intelligence for tech executives. Wow. I have worked with quite a handful of tech executives, and when I say work, so all of us need you. And I also consult, I sit on boards and all across, and I will just try and give you an example of some observations that I have and why I think this is important for all of us, like all of us together. Because I have a particular paradigm or optic that says that even though I function in the mental health industry, I am running a tech company, though I am providing mental health solutions. So I am honestly a tech executive, even though I am providing mental health solutions. So what exactly does emotional intelligence for tech executives mean, or what would you be going home with or learning in the next 40 minutes? I will start by saying or defining what emotional intelligence means. So I will start by talking about emotional intelligence from the professional and intellectual side, and I'll make it as practical as possible. And I would also give you examples. So I would give you international examples. And if you live in Lagos, Nigeria, I would also bring it back home. So what exactly is emotional intelligence? So an example will be if we're discussing financial intelligence, you know that we're talking about the ability to save and invest. If we're talking about physical intelligence, we're talking about paying attention to what you consume and also exercising. After all, if you eat, you should be fit. If we're also talking about spiritual intelligence, we're talking about the ability to defer to any flavor of God. So emotional intelligence is the ability to be smart with your feelings. The same way you're smart with your money, you're smart with your health, you're smart with everything that revolves around you. Emotional intelligence is the ability to be smart with your feelings. What do I mean by being smart with your feelings? It means the ability to effectively blend your thinking and feeling skills to make optimal decisions. Effectively blending your thoughts and your feelings before you make an action or before you decide or you make a decision. So there's a process to decision making, and the most fantastic route is when you blend your thoughts and your feelings to produce an action. So let's look at the different categories or flavors of people around, no matter the industry, and then I will streamline to tech because, I said earlier on that I love tech people a lot. So let's look at industry. So usually when anything happens to us, be it at work, at home, or anywhere, what usually happens is that the moment you experience what we call a stimulus, which is also called a trigger or an impact. The moment you experience either of the three, what happens is that the first place that you experience it is your feeling zone. And once you feel, if you are not careful, you will not think. So what happens usually to almost all of us human beings, is that once we experience a stimulus, we move to the next action. Because once you experience it at the feeling center, the next place you go to is your action. it is only emotionally intelligent professionals that subject their feelings to thoughts. And before it sounds too deep, why exactly is this very important? So let's look at it. There are two flavors of leaders, the people-oriented leaders and the project-oriented leaders. People-oriented and project-oriented. So the project-oriented leaders are people who set goals, and more than half of the time when they set their goals, they meet their goals. Like, very driven, very responsible, very articulate. They're the high flyers. They're the people that people depend on. Just give them a role or a target and you can go to bed. You don't have to micromanage them. Project-oriented leaders write out goals on their mode of vision boards, and be rest assured that daily or weekly they're ticking. And as they're ticking, they are writing new ones, curating new ones, and they're ticking them, and they're killing everything, and they're solving the problems. While people-oriented leaders are also great when it comes to setting goals and meeting goals, but these people are a little more focused on people than projects. And that's why sometimes people try and categorize them, and you begin to hear different personalities. So when you hear when people are saying, oh, she's sanguine or he's sanguine, what they're automatically saying is that this person is a people-oriented person, and at the back of their mind, which is the unconscious thought, is the fact that they think that, oh, sanguines are always around people, or they take pleasure in being around people. While some people call themselves introverts. So when you mention sanguine, in people's minds, they are extroverted. And then when you talk about introverts, they are people that sometimes people describe as, oh, they're into their shell, they're always, maybe quiet, they like their space, all of those beautiful parlance or whatever that we use, yes, to describe them. Interestingly, all of us meet in the workplace, and we meet there to work together. So you then see a project-oriented person, and then you see a people-oriented person. So the project-oriented person is then in charge of people. And usually, I must also admit, project-oriented people are very kind. However, because sometimes they are so consumed by the project that what is at the back of their mind is to achieve the desired outcome, that if they are not careful, they are not paying attention to the process. They sometimes forget that when you mention or utter the word human resource, what makes the resource important is the human there. So even as a project-oriented leader consumed by the desire and the passion to achieve your outcomes and your goals, what is supposed to be our responsibility is the fact that we need to remember that we're working with people. I'm going somewhere, so just stay with me. That we're working with people. So you have a project-oriented leader handling a team, and then you have a people-oriented leader handling a team. Both of them kind and empathetic, but the difference is their style of delivery. The difference is their approach. The difference is the fact that even though they are good leaders, qualified leaders, they may not achieve the same results. And at the end of the day, they may be sincerely wrong. And what I mean by sincerely wrong is, yes, there's an outcome. But at the end of the day, working with people may not be as seamless and as interesting. Or at the end of the day, they may not even achieve the desired outcome. And then it would bounce back on them and affect their mental health and all of that. So where exactly do you come in as a tech executive? An observation that I have noticed is that tech executives are very awesome people. Like, I must admit that very creative, that the people with different hairstyles. Like, one, if you want to just try and look for tech executives, you will just see an iota of rebellion. What I mean is from their hair to, you will just see it in their gymnastics that there's something going down here. And personally, I love it. So number one, they exist. Number two is that sometimes, because we're so engrossed in a lot of things, so these guys are the back end guys, some of them back end dealing with machines, dealing with all of those codes, all of the codes that you guys do, thank you. Dealing with the codes, dealing with a lot of things in between, maybe wires, or I don't know what it's called, but dealing with all of those things. And then, beyond dealing with the back end, there's the front end and there's the human end. So I appreciate the fact that you have mastered the back end. Awesome! I am now trying to focus on the front end and the human end. And what I mean by that is, we talk with machines, we talk with other people to help us do all of these things. But I am also hoping that despite the fact that you are a high flyer at your work, despite the fact that your IQ is fantastic, despite the fact that you are extremely intelligent, I am hoping that in all your conversations with machines, you are having a conversation with yourself. Because you know the truth, no matter what you achieve and no matter what you help your clients achieve, the most important achievement is your internal alignment. Your internal congruence is what is happening within you. And what do I mean by that? Emotions drive people. People drive performance. People drive productivity. People drive the bottom line. For every credit alert or every income that you get, it is tied to a human being. And despite all your achievements, the most important one is you paying attention to 4 things that I'll mention now, the most important. So thank you for ensuring that we are free of viruses or free of things that can affect us organizationally. Thank you for all that you do behind the scene. But then, all that you do behind the scene is helping us when it comes to information technology, is helping us when it comes to maybe physical output or technological output, all of those fantastic things. But I am here to say that you are helping us in areas that are not seen, intrinsic. However, we need to be sure that in your own life, there's no virus there. We need to be sure also that you are as excellent as the service that you hand over to us. And when I mean excellent, I mean internally. Because there's really no health, there's no financial health, there's no physical health without mental health. I'll give you some statistics. I remember schooling at Yale and going over to Cornell for all that I do. And I remember one of the days when I needed to do some things at Harvard. And part of the research that I did was what Harvard said about emotional intelligence. So the genesis of emotional intelligence originated from the 23rd president of Yale University. He's still the president. His name is Peter. And how did Peter come up with this? For him was the fact that he sat down and said, he started looking at very intelligent people. For you to attend an Ivy League school, quite truthfully, I think you should be more than average intellectually. So Peter said he sat down and he started checking out the numbers. And the numbers he was checking out was, he looked at the past 10 years, all of the people who had graduated from the Ivy League schools he had taught at, being a doctor and a professor. And he looked at 10 years after their lives. And one interesting thing that he noticed was that there was something that was a determining factor beyond their IQ, beyond their intelligence. And he said he started looking at it. That was in the early 80s. Started looking at it and he said, there's a magic wand, there's a wow factor, there's something that I'm looking for. And what he was able to find was what he later called and formulated as emotional intelligence, which basically means your relationship management skills. And he said that he looked at all of them and he said, when you are intelligent, you know that you are intelligent for yourself. And what I mean by that is, for example, imagine yourself in an exam hall. And the reason when you get to an exam hall, they then give you like a sheet of paper to put your name, and your student number and all of those things. The reason why they're saying you should put your name and your number is because they are going to personalize the answer to you. So whatever you score, is tied to your name. It's not a conference score. It's not that, oh, you scored 90% and then it's for the entire class. No. So Peter said that he observed that IQ is personal. What you, however, will do with your IQ is tied to relationship management. And if you also cast your mind back, so just look at it. Every time you got a contract or a deal or a job, every time your company has been hired, number one, you were hired based on IQ, meaning that the client is hoping, or the client believes, that whatever brief that both of you have agreed upon, you will deliver on. So for them is that you got the job because you are great at it. Somebody recommended you excellent. Somebody recommended every good thing about you. And that's why you were hired. However, being hired for a brief and a contract is one thing. Executing it is another thing. Executing it is another thing. And in executing it, you would execute with a team. You would execute with the client's team and everybody. And your ability to not just get the job, but to keep the job and to grow on the job depends on your people skill. I am sure that you have patronized some organizations repeatedly, or you are on a retainer with them, possibly because beyond the service and the fact that they are great at it, their customer service is fantastic. So Peter came up with, 85% of your ability to get a job, to keep the job, and to grow on the job. So this is Peter and Harvard speaking. 85% of your ability to not get, to keep, and to grow depends on your people skill, while 15% depends on your IQ, which is, we know you are excellent. So from the moment you were born and you started attending or going to school, and now just imagine yourself being in school for 50 years. Whatever you decide to study and read till you die is still tied to the 15%. The remaining 80%, 85% is very instructive. What that means is that, yes, we know and we have established that you are extremely intelligent and great at it. But then you need to deal with about 8 billion people on earth. And in dealing with these people, you need relationship skills. And the most interesting relationship skill is the fact that when I'm talking about relationships, there are two flavors of them: your intrapersonal relationship and the interpersonal. The irony of the interpersonal relationship is that it starts from the intrapersonal. If you are not at peace with yourself, you cannot be at peace with anybody else. So when you see someone who is experiencing what we call anger issues or malfunctioning, I have a title of being called a retired nuisance, but I won't bore you with that gist. If you need the gist, you will get it some other time. So when you meet someone who is malfunctioning or experiencing anger issues and doing all of those things, be rest assured that anger is not the problem. Anger is the effect, not the cause. So when we're talking about relationships with 8 billion people, don't be in a hurry to go interpersonal, that, oh, my clients, my neighbors, my this, my colleagues, my CEO, my staff. No, first and foremost, it's with you. If you are experiencing internal alignment, you will be at peace. And when I say at peace, the first layer is that you will definitely know how to be assertive and not aggressive. So, as the IT tech and the professional here, what I need you to please pay attention to is the fact that the excellence you are trying organizations, you are helping organizations to achieve, please pay attention to that excellence yourself. You want our lives to be virus-free. I personally want your life to be virus-free. And how can you ensure that your life is virus-free? By paying attention to your mental health. Money is fantastic, money is fine. And honestly, I know that you guys make cool mints. I'm even looking for how to get into your industry. I know. But I have observed that there's something more than money. So let me give you an example of what I do. I have been on this for 17 years, and 3 things that I help my clients achieve is to move from a life of dissatisfaction to satisfaction, meaninglessness to meaning, distraction to focus. 65% of my clients are very wealthy. And where I mean very wealthy, money is not their problem. They have worked for nothing less than 15 years. They have gotten to the peak of their careers. They have made the money. They have bought the machines and the cars that they need. They have bought the houses. Like, they're well traveled. They've been up and about. But one thing is missing. And what is missing is that they are looking for meaning. They have transcended survival. They are looking for legacy. They are looking for something else beyond money. Because initially they thought that once I have money, I have everything. Now they have the money. But they are now saying that, oh, okay, so I have money, but this money cannot buy some things. So what is next? So as a tech executive, I would like to call your consciousness more than ever before to the fact that beyond relating with machines and people in your industry and people that are hiring you, your clients, I personally need you to please relate with yourself. Because the greatest meeting you can have is a meeting with yourself. And how can you relate with yourself? By understanding how to stay on the spectrum of happiness and how to ensure that you spend a good number of your time in that zone. And how to also ensure that even if you get into the unhappiness zone, you know how to whether crawl out, step out, or fly out. Because I have interacted with a couple of people, and one thing that is clear is that they have a good number of people around them. And when I say a couple of people in your industry, actually, one thing that is clear is that they have a lot of people or a couple of people around them, but then they are lonely. I still had a conversation with somebody during the week, and that was the same thing. She said, everybody thinks that they know me, everybody appreciates me, everybody thinks that, oh, I'm one of the best things after whatever. But you know the truth? I feel very lonely. And you know, I'm not sure what else to do. Now I'm even thinking, maybe I should change my career or cross, whatever it is. So just in case you're also feeling like that, just in case you feel like, oh, you have achieved or you are achieving, or sometimes you feel lonely and unhappy, here is what it means. So every time you feel unhappy, it means 2 things. It means that your present reality is not aligning with your desired outcome. It means that your life outcomes, what you are presently experiencing, what you are presently going through, does not align with what you desired to go through, which is your present and your life outcome does not align with your blueprint. Once there's a mismatch between your present reality and your desired outcome, you will be unhappy. Once there's a mismatch in what you desired to achieve, in what you scripted on your vision board, what you curated, what you thought you should be achieving, where you thought you should be, what you thought you should be doing now, whatever. Once there's a misalignment between what is going on in your life as it is hot, what is going on presently, and what you ever desired to go on, whether you thought you should be abroad or you should be in another country by now, or you should be at a role or at a job, or you should be functioning in whatever capacity, or you should have made this type of money, or you should have gotten married, whatever that you planned, that this year and this decade, this year is actually the beginning, so whatever that you planned, as long as it's not aligning with what you're presently going through, there will be something called unhappiness. The meaning of unhappiness is because you are disappointed. And it is fine to be disappointed. It is legitimate to feel disappointed. What you, however, need to do is to ensure that you don't stay disappointed. So you can feel disappointed, yes. You can experience disappointment, but it is your responsibility not to stay disappointed. And how can you now move from that level of unhappiness to happiness? So every time you find yourself unhappy, or you find your colleague unhappy, or you find your client, anybody around you, please note that the reason why they're unhappy is because their present reality is not aligning with their desired outcome. What can you do at that point for yourself and for others? 3 things. The first is that they need to change their strategy. In changing your strategy, what that means is, remember that you are the one who set the standard. Remember, you are the one who set the goal. Remember, you are the one who set your desired outcome. So what that means is that if you have the capacity to set an outcome, to set a goal, and to set a standard, you have the capacity to also reset it. So if you desired it and you didn't achieve it, you have the capacity to go back to the drawing board to adjust it. It is not a do or die standard. You curated the standard based on your desires. And now it has not been established. So instead of feeling like a failure, you should know that failure is an event, not a person. Instead of feeling like a failure, what you should please do is to re-strategize. In re-strategizing, ask yourself cogent questions. How can I start again? What can I adjust? Who can I collaborate with? Because we all experience unhappiness. We all feel not good enough, but we don't stay with that feeling. We remind ourselves. We call forth the God in ourselves. We call forth the reality. We call forth the supreme being in ourselves. So once you feel unhappy, you need to change your strategy. It's not working. Let me tell you something. People say strange things like, something, winners don't quit, something don't quit. Honestly, in 17 years, I've come to admit that quitting is a skill. And honestly, sometimes there's a time to quit. There's a time to say it's not working. If you don't say it, you may quit. Honestly, giving up is a skill sometimes. So I'm not saying we should keep giving up, no. But giving up is a skill. If you don't give up, you may give up the ghost. So we need to be very real. When something is not working, you can halt it for a week, for a month, for a year. You can revisit it. You can collaborate. You can restart again. So when you are feeling unhappy, I've established what it means. You need to change your strategy. Number 2 is, after changing your strategy, you need to change your state. There's a way unhappy people carry themselves. There's a body posture for unhappiness. I work as a therapist and psychologist, and I know there's a body posture for it. And the posture for it is that you do not have the energy to look up anymore. So if you're not careful, you are looking down and ruminating, as opposed to looking up and visioning and envisioning. So you need to change your state also. Anything that can make you happy, alter it and enjoy it. We actually need to intentionally infuse enjoyment in our lives. So beyond working, because we're not here to work, pay bills and die. Beyond working, enjoyment must be part of it. So whatever can make you alter your state, as long as it is empowering, please go for it. Finally, you need to change your story. I have an audio product, actually 2 audio products on stories. And you can get them on our website, emotioncity.com. Because all of us are storytellers, and your life will go in the direction of your story. If you wake up every morning and you say to yourself that I am not good enough, whatever I lay my hands upon will not prosper, I am not great at what I do, whatever it is, let me tell you something. At work, everywhere, that story will run through it. What that means is that no matter the project or the brief, you will not deliver as excellently as you're supposed to deliver, because your utterances, have you heard this word before? As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. It's not even as you pray, it is as you think. So the stories you utter, no matter who is hyping you and who is farmsing and standing you, if you don't hype yourself, don't farms yourself, don't stand yourself. If you're not Nigerian, what that means is that if you don't hail yourself, if you personally don't affirm yourself, no matter what anybody does, what is going on within you will fight and will resist what is being said about you. Your internal will fight your external. So, I wanted to say, my fellow colleagues, I feel like I'm a tech person already. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is extremely important that we pay attention to our mental health. And in paying attention to your mental health, you are paying attention to your intrapersonal relationship, the relationship you have with yourself. If you are not taking enough rest, you are in an abusive relationship with yourself. And quite truthfully, in some other areas, you may be seen as an abuser. And you don't have to abuse other people. You are abusing yourself because you matter too. You matter. The way you prioritize deadlines and the jobs and the brief. Please prioritize yourself. Prioritize yourself. Every time you experience unhappiness, I've told you, and every time you experience happiness, it simply means that your outcomes and present reality align with your blueprint. And that's why we give testimonies, that's why we're excited, that's why we go on social media to write and scribble. The reason why we are rejoicing is because all that we dreamt to achieve, all of them are happening. And that's why we are so excited. When they are not happening, we are disappointed, and that's when we become unhappy. And when we become unhappy, if we don't pay attention to some things, we will be depressed. Every time you hear somebody is depressed, so depression also has two flavors. You have the chronic depression, where you have to see a psychiatrist to take some level of prescription so that you can balance your hormones. But there's the mild depression that sometimes we all go in and out of, which begins from unhappiness and the level of unhappiness. So when you also hear that people are depressed, there are 3 stages before depression, especially the mild level of depression. So the first is cluelessness. The fact that you have exhausted your wisdom, and it's okay to run out of wisdom, very okay. But when you lack wisdom, meaning we all get there, what we're supposed to do is to consult other people, because we're the ones who, at this point, is insufficient in a particular area, actually. So that you are clueless does not necessarily mean that you are not wise. No. It is a particular area that you have exhausted your gas. You have exhausted your wisdom. And what is crucial is to then reach out to people that you respect to sort you out or help you out. One kind word, one suggestion, one whatever can give you traction. So when people are clueless, if they do not consult and reach out for help, they become hopeless, which is the second level. Once they are hopeless and they still do not reach out, they become helpless. The moment an adult embodies cluelessness, hopelessness, and helplessness, they are already attracting mild depression. What that means is that you already think that there's really no reason to be here. You are not contributing to anything, and nobody really cares about you, or nobody is paying attention to you. And then you are beginning to conceive your exit plan. So every time you are clueless, please reach out for help. Please. And you know where help is? Your friends, your support system, and of course, professionals. Please, if you have to pay for it, because you can afford it actually, please reach out for help. Because if you stay clueless, you will most likely become hopeless. When you become hopeless, a part of you will become helpless. And at the end of the day, I have done this for 17 years and I have studied the pattern. And when I see the first and the second level, I always suggest an immediate intervention. Because what is going on is that your unconscious life, which is 95% of your existence, which is life on autopilot, is taking over. Once your unconscious takes over, we need an intervention. If not, something will go wrong and it may be fatal. So, IT, thank you so much for all the awesome things you are doing behind the scene. Thank you so much for the beautiful things you are doing right in front of us. But despite all of this, I am somebody who is after your wellness and your wholeness. And you are not whole just because you are rich. You are not whole just because you can afford what you desire. You are whole once your intrapersonal relationship is in alignment with your interpersonal relationship. Once you know that after the work, you have your personal life, your family life, you have your existence to deal with. Last week, I felt a little tired and I checked myself in at a resort for 3 days. And I timed myself showing up online or showing up to attend to humans and showing up to attend to my soul. You know the truth, the only thing I went there to do was to sleep and eat. My house is actually good enough, but at the resort, I felt like I was home away from home and I was not actually on earth. I was just strolling around greenery, just pampering myself, because there's a time for self-preservation. And you can't preserve people if you haven't preserved yourself. So when you see someone who looks cantankerous or who is a little hyper or aggressive or troublesome, those flavors are effects. For somebody like me, the question I'm asking is, what has gone wrong? What do we need to pay attention to? What is happening in this person's life? What intervention does this person need? Because we were all not created from the beginning. We were not created aggressive. We were not created unkind. We were not created with lack of empathy. We were created with kindness. We were created peaceful. So when you see emotional gymnastics, there's an emotional deficiency. And we need to call ourselves to that reality. We need to keep reminding ourselves every day and daily. As you are dealing with back end and the laptop, please pay attention to yourself. Let's pay attention to what matters most. Would I say 10 decades? Years ago, yes. I used to spend time with people who, when people say to me that they have terminal illnesses, so you then begin to visit and visit and visit. And you know, death has a way of reordering and giving you priorities, actually. You know, death has a way of calling our attention to what needs to be prioritized. And I see good people say to me that I wish, or yes, I prioritized myself and my family, that I worked so hard, and now that I'm supposed to be enjoying my life, I am using the same money that I labored for to tidy up and find ways to preserve my life. I have so overworked myself that I am now on one form of drug or the other. And when I say drug, I don't mean the extreme. I'm now trying to preserve and elongate or whatever my life. I wish I prioritized myself and things that really matter. So I am here to remind us all, not that you have forgotten, but that we need to intentionally slot this in relating with clients, Interpersonal skills are extremely important. The ability to be assertive and not aggressive. The ability to focus on the issue and not the person. The ability to attack the issue and not the person. And just in case you are wondering what it means to be assertive and not aggressive, when you are assertive, it means you are communicating the message and not the pain. When you are aggressive, it means you are communicating the pain and not the message. When you are assertive, you are focusing on issues, the problem, what has gone wrong, not focusing on the person. So it's not you versus the person. When you are assertive, it's you and the person versus the issue. But when you are aggressive, you make it look like it is you against the person. And the irony of aggression is that we are feeding our ego. The ego is the third person that both of us and all of us we've never seen, but we defend, we fight for, and we preserve. And if we're not careful, we are feeding the ego, and the ego is already obese. And we are making it look like there's something we are hiding, which is the fact that there's something tied to esteem and low self-esteem that makes us attempt at every point in time to feed and to fight for our ego. So, as a client, as a tech executive, whatever, interpersonal skill, extremely important. Intrapersonal skill, number 1 on the list. When you then effectively blend both intra and interpersonal, we would then say, indeed, you are an emotionally intelligent tech executive. You are an emotionally intelligent professional. And we're not at any point advocating for perfection. We're just here to say daily improvement. So, I am rooting for you in everything that you do. Once again, I am personally saying thank you for all the beautiful things and the interventions all of you have contributed to the world. However, beyond your contributions, we want you to enjoy deep peace. We want you to enjoy vulnerability. That word vulnerability, to some people, is a strange word. Extremely strange. And if you were raised in Nigeria, it may be a little more strange. Vulnerability is one thing that we owe ourselves because it is the first step to intimacy. So if at any point you desire that people should be in your corner, if at any point you desire to share your life or share your world with anybody, whether with one person, with 10 people, whatever, you indeed want to bring people into your space. Vulnerability, soul stripping is one key thing we all need to learn. Soul stripping, vulnerability. Emotional intelligence is not a soft skill. Emotional intelligence is not a hard skill. It is actually not just a life skill. Emotional intelligence is life. Kindness is not a life skill. It is life. Empathy is not a life skill. It is life. Conflict resolution is not a life skill. You must be able to accept that you are different and other people are different. And nobody has to be wrong for you to be right. 2 people can be right. You know, I have one reservation about the statement I disagree when people say it. It sounds strange in my ears. When people just say, I disagree. I'm like, for me, the statement I disagree does not exist. And what I mean is, the moment you say you disagree, you have unconsciously taken a posture where you have informed and told yourself unconsciously that what you are about to utter and what you are about to say that you have not said is better than what has already been said. Because when you say you disagree, something is telling you that what you want to say now is better than what has been said. And it's not necessarily true. So instead of thinking and feeling that, oh, I disagree. You have taken that posture that you are right and that person is wrong. And it's an unconscious posture. I usually suggest, as an emotionally intelligent professional, that instead of saying I disagree, can you calmly say, I share a differing opinion. I share a differing perspective. Can we look at it this other way? Because the irony is that both parties can be right. Can people be wrong? Yes. But I share a different opinion. To you, you are right. And I don't necessarily have to say you are wrong. I've heard serious things too, and this is still what I choose to say. Oh, I share a different opinion. Okay, interesting. That sounds valid. When I say that sounds valid, it doesn't mean I agree. It just means I understand. There are two different things. I can understand where you are coming from, but not agree to what you are saying. So yeah, that's valid actually. That's valid. But I share a different opinion. I share a different perspective. That's what emotionally intelligent professionals do. We accommodate everybody. Accommodating does not mean we agree. We are just celebrating our difference and accepting that reality. And because we're professionals, it exists. We have to do it across board. We have to do it with ourselves and with other people. So thank you so much for listening to me this beautiful, beautiful day. I hope this has been worth your time. Emotional intelligence is the oxygen of relationships, and it starts with you. It starts with self-preservation, also called me-preservation. Then people preservation. Finally, earth preservation. You cannot preserve the earth or preserve people if you haven't preserved yourself. And you cannot stop at preserving yourself because other people exist too. So please preserve yourself with all the tools that I've mentioned. Then please go ahead and extend the preservation to others. And finally, we will not always be here. We have an expiry date, but the earth will always be here. And you'll be remembered for something. Please do not just be remembered for all of the excellence and inventions. Be remembered also for how you made people feel. Because people don't really care how much you know, but how you made them feel. Made them feel as a boss, as an associate, as a client, as a professional, as anything. Please pay attention to how you relate with yourself and relate with others. Once again, my name is Untitled Alabi, founder of Emotion City, and you can hook up with me on all my social media handles at Emotions Doctor, and on my website, my personal name, Untitled Alabi, one word, and of course, our official website, emotioncity.com. Thank you so much for listening to the end. You should know that I am rooting for you. I personally, genuinely care about your mental health. I care about your happiness. I care about your wholesomeness, and I care about your well-being. To take the conversation further or to reach out or reach me, you can get me on my handle, which is at Emotions Doctor across board, or my personal website, onyekonsolaalabi.com, or my official website, emotioncity.com. And I would like to appreciate the entire crew and Google Developers Forum, all of them, everybody. Thank you so much for extending your platform to me, and thank you for sharing your world with me. I appreciate this so much. Do have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful and wealthy day.